All right. Thanks everybody for joining us for our part two, or part due, as Chris said, of our how to effectively use MarTech in 2023 and beyond. We're so excited to be here. Thank you all for joining us. All right, so a little bit about Chris and I. So Chris, tell us about you.
Sure. I am actually a CRM success consultant and the founder and president of Clients First Consulting. For the last almost 17 years, we've been helping firms successfully select and implement marketing technology such as CRM and related and integrated types of technology, and helping them actually implement them in such a way that they get value and ROI. We focus a lot on people and process and change management, and we have an entire team that does manual and automated data cleaning to make sure that the data is good. And we're going to talk about why that's important during the webinar today.
All right. It's hard to believe, Chris, 17 years. That was like back in the time of the dinosaurs. I was around then. I've been in legal marketing for 20 years. We were, who here remembers when we were sending invitations out via regular mail? You know, I mean, it's pretty crazy. So
we're technosaurs.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like doing newsletters that I would mail to people, and I'd be like, wait, what? So the world has changed, and so have we. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stefanie Marrone. I've been in the legal marketing industry for about 20 years. I've been in-house, I've been a consultant, I've been in-house, I've been a consultant, so I've done it pretty much all. I can totally commiserate with you. I primarily work with small and mid-sized firms, although I was at big firms, as you can see below, for many years, but I really feel like where I can make the most impact are smaller and mid-sized firms. And I live in New York City, and I have 2 French bulldogs. So that's me. All right. So let's delve in. So those of you who've been at law firms, you've heard this saying. Who here has heard this saying before? Well, that's the way we've always done things. And whether you're a new person to a firm or you've been there for a while, you know that you're met with resistance a lot. So we just talked about the dinosaur age, right? And that the legal industry tends to lag behind other industries in almost, I think, every area, particularly in technology. That's why we need people like Chris. And people, you know, so I'll tell you guys, firms at which I worked with years ago would say to me, Stefanie, what are you talking about with regard to LinkedIn? They're like, we don't need LinkedIn. We're really good at what we do. We don't need to use social media. And actually, yeah, you do. So one of those firms that will remain nameless, when I said to them we should be using LinkedIn, Chris, they said to me, nah. Now they have 6 people managing their social media accounts.
Good God.
I love to say I told you so. So I always say, like, with innovation, with technology, it's really good to question things, to provide options, to show them things. So the things we're showing you today, everybody, these are ideas. You know, by no means are we suggesting you do all of these things at once or at the same time, but, you know, come back to your firm with ideas. That's why I love going to conferences, and Chris and I will both be at the LMA conference, both speaking at the Quick Start, pre-con. These are meant to give you actionable ideas of things you can suggest without rocking the boat too much. Because also you don't want to like annoy everybody and be like, well, things here, they think things were working just fine. And you're like, no. Okay. And one of the things Chris is going to talk about is the idea of silos. And I want to say that too, because I feel like business development, MarTech, PR, social media, you know, all of those areas, and the people who are responsible for the functions of those areas sometimes operate in silos. And we would do a lot better if we collaborated and coordinated. And I think it's gotten a little harder working from home, Chris, because we don't see our colleagues every day. So we can't go over to someone's desk and be like, listen, like that email that I want to send for this client alert, what do you think about this or that? So I feel like we've had to get better about the way we even communicate with our colleagues, with the lawyers, to get things done and to continue to innovate.
Agreed. Hey, and Stefanie, forgot to tell everybody too, if any of you are coming to LMA and you're going to be in early, we're going to do this fun thing we do by the pool called CabanaCon, and Stefanie and I will both be there. Stop by the Cabana, by the pool on
That's
Sunday.
on Sunday, right, Chris?
Yeah, we'll probably start about noon. So if you want an invite or more details, just let us know. Drop it in the chat and we'll get it to you.
Let us know. Put it in the chat. Okay, that sounds like a lot of fun. So one of the things I always say is that the world has changed and we have to change as well. And that's where technology comes into it. This is meant to be a depiction of your client today. Most people who are decision makers grew up with an iPhone or some sort of smartphone, essentially in utero. And the world was very different for Chris and I. We, at my computer, I don't know if anyone here remembers a Commodore 64, Chris, hopefully you do, but my computer was a big jalopy and the world has changed a lot. So I adapted to social media. I didn't grow up with social media. I wish I had. I read books, Chris, and actual magazines, but we have to be more adaptable. And this is not just for social media, by the way. This is email marketing. This is any technology, because people are scrolling on their phones. They are busy and they have much shorter attention spans just because the information is getting pulled at us like all throughout the day.
Yeah, it's true.
And the tools we are talking about today are designed to help us do our jobs more efficiently and effectively and better. There are tons of tools out there. Sometimes I feel like overwhelmed, and I'm going to say that right here. This is sometimes me with all the tools I have, and many of you may feel the same way, that you have almost like tool and like paralysis. You feel like, okay, I have so many data tools. What do I do with them? What do I do with my email marketing statistics? What do I do with my LinkedIn statistics? How do I present this to the lawyers? And that's okay. But analytics are so important to ensure that you're getting the kind of value that you should be from all of these activities that we're doing every day, because without analytics, we don't know the true ROI, okay? And ROI is a return on investment. We need that to help us do our jobs better. Okay, and so with that, Chris, I'm going to ask you to present about some of your technology tools, tips, and tricks. This is, by the way, part 2, but we probably could have part infinity.
We're talkers. You know this about us.
Well, we just have a lot of info to share. So,
Okay.
All right, Chris.
Well, and I'll let you be my Vanna White for this. So go ahead and go to the first slide.
Sorry, I just muted myself, which is so odd for me. One of the things about Vanna White and Pat Sajak is that they're not aging, which like is frightening to me a little bit. I don't understand.
We're not aging either, Stephanie.
We're not. I've had a little bit of tasteful work done, Chris, but we won't tell anybody. All right.
So, we did this series because we wanted to talk about tech trends, and there were so many that we couldn't do it in just one. So of course we're now having our second one. So this one, we're going to talk about some different trends that we didn't cover before. First of all, digital first is a top priority. And a lot of these things that I'm sharing are things where we've done a lot of work with hundreds of top firms. And these are the trends that we're seeing among these firms. What are they doing right now? How are they reacting to the current climate and environment? And digital first, because we're back to in-person, pretty well back to in-person, but not 100%. And we figured out, guess what? Digital works. It's fast. It's furious. People, there's a little bit of webinar burnout, I think we're seeing. Fortunately, not for us, because we have a great attendance today. Thank you all for coming. We've got like a bunch of people today. But we're doing a lot more hybrid, a lot more webinars. You can do them quickly, less expensively, and you can also be very targeted in your mailing list there. Also, we're seeing a lot more outsourcing, and we're going to see a lot more of this. During the initial recession was actually when we started our data quality business, because everybody sort of got rid of their data stewards, but you still had to get the work done. And so, we're anticipating there's going to be a lot more outsourcing if something happens like a recession. We all hope it doesn't, but if it does, know that you have options, and people are already taking advantage of those options. Outsource CRM managers, outsource data stewards, outsourced e-marketing folks, and that's a good trend. Even if you just have someone out, with an illness or maternity or vacation, or you need to hire somebody, outsourcing has become really popular. We're also seeing outside of legal, and about to probably be a piece of legal, that the CMO's tech budget is actually outpacing the CIO's tech budget in a lot of organizations, a lot of top companies. A lot of things have gone to the cloud. Marketing technology doesn't require as much, IT, and the budget's not in that department anymore. So, and of course, we're seeing lots and lots of marketing technology managers, seeing a lot of need right now for experience with experience. and in those people. So, that is certainly a top trend this year is experience management. We'll talk about that.
Interesting. So these positions, despite maybe a slowdown, are still hot. So that's good
Some
to
of these
know.
positions are director level now.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I can tell you guys, like in my role, I have to bring on a CRM. I'm working with a firm that has no CRM. In fact, many of the clients I work with have no CRM. I'm curious if any of you are in that boat as well.
Clients first. We can help
Yes,
you with that stuff.
you're on my list. You're the person I'm going to call.
Okay.
You're the only person I'm going to call.
Let's go to the next slide. Firms are also, I'm sorry, back up. Yeah. We're also seeing, I've never seen so many firms changing or investigating changing CRM systems. They have the desire to get to the cloud, utilize advanced business development tools, and really focus on systems that allow the lawyers to just be lawyers while passively capturing information. There's a whole new value dynamic that I can talk about at another time, but that really allows the lawyers to do less, because people who are billing hundreds or thousands of dollars an hour shouldn't really be doing data entry. It's not the highest and best use of their extremely expensive billable time. Outside of legal, mobile is the way. Mobile search continues to blow, desktop and laptop out of the water. In legal, it's definitely on the rise, as it has been, but there's still a lot of desktop use here. And just a lot of interesting trends going on, and we're going to talk more in depth about some of them. Let's talk about some of the tools. During the first webinar, we talked about some of the basics, the standard hammer and nail. Yeah, you can flip the slides, Steph.
Okay.
The hammer and the screwdriver type of tools, you got to have them in your toolbox. They're the basics, CRM, e-marketing tools. But now let's talk about some of the new, what I call power tools, that some of these firms are more interested in. We've got a lot of firms focused on marketing automation, right? They're going to call it marketing automation. Marketing automation was created by these companies like Marketo and Eloqua and some of these big organizations. And people think, oh, I need to do marketing automation. But most firms, like almost every firm that we've worked with, marketing automation involves sending thousands of pieces of content in a timed manner to targeted audience. So what we really use it for is about 10% of the real power of marketing automation, because you've got to have, again, thousands of pieces of content to really benefit. But there are some features that are great, like being able to send an invite and then have RSVPs. You'll have people that don't RSVP or that RSVP yes or no, and you might want to send different messages at different times. And that's what we see a lot of folks doing. And that is a piece of marketing automation. Just remember, you don't have to go out and buy Marketo and Eloqua and spend all that money just to use 10% of the features. So budgets, ROI to me is really important as well.
And that's so important, by the way, you said that, because even with CRM systems, especially for smaller firms, I feel like there are so many options, like the bigger options, we don't need all the bells and whistles. Like there are other solutions, so just everyone should think about, like, we all have different budgets and all different needs, and one size doesn't fit all. So
nope. And then, we'll talk about Stefanie. We'll talk more about social media, because she is the wizard of social media. Gamification has become, more and more important. The Society 54 folks do a lot with that to help get attorneys to adopt and compete to get more sort of bang for their BD buck. We'll talk a little bit more about some of this. And then stay tuned. We're gonna talk more about AI at the end, because I know that everybody is always so interested in that. So let's go to the next slide. So again, marketing automation. The one thing to understand, whether you're just doing e-marketing, and by the way, Future, Concept, some of the more popular tools, they all have marketing automation facets to them. So it's not like you have to go buy a new tool to be able to say you're doing marketing automation. You can do it with a lot of the existing tools. If you're using a HubSpot, it does it as well. But the most important thing is your e-marketing should be integrated with your CRM, because if you don't, you have, what did Stefanie say earlier? Silos of data, right? And you don't want to have silos of data. It's like having two completely disconnected databases. And then, there's also, again, a lot of these systems are great, but don't waste the money if you don't have a strategy. All right, let's go to the next slide.
All right.
Pipelines. All right. We're seeing a lot more with pipelines. So interesting though, we're all professional services firms, but I work with accounting firms as well. And I'm doing what we call a CRM success assessment, helping them find a new CRM. And they're numbers folks. They want to talk about their 5 business development pipelines that are firm wide, and each group has their own pipeline and they manage it, they meet about it, they share it. We're a little behind in legal in doing that. But I'm seeing more of it, which is exciting. I actively we had our pipeline call earlier today, and it's like, you should be looking at not just at a good start, RFPs and pitches, right? That's going to be done by the marketing and BD team, and that can be tracked. Harder when trying to get individual pitches from attorneys, but I think we're getting there over time, but a lot of firms interested in the technology that will capture the stages, where are we? Who's in charge of this? Who's the team? Who are we connecting with? We have information about them. What's the work like? What's the work worth? Which office might it be in? What practices? You don't have to track all this, but it's good to track a lot of this. And you don't have to do it in a pipeline tool, but every firm's got so many spreadsheets already. And, I've worked with firms where I'm like, well, how are you tracking this? Oh, well, 2 different people are tracking it on 2 different spreadsheets, and they both saved it to their hard drives. It wasn't even in document management, and if that person decides to go, I don't know, global nomad, or,
Gets hit by a bus or wins the lotto.
Yeah, I hate to always hit people with buses. So
I know that's why I've started using the lotto instead to make it
hit
positive.
the lotto. All right. They hit the lotto. Yeah. Then suddenly the BD pipeline is on their hard drive. That's not the top of their mind to.
Well, but even Chris, the BD pipeline is in lawyers' heads.
I know.
Sometimes they don't even think that certain things they do is a BD pipeline activity. And so even getting them comfortable and remembering to share with us is a huge part of the challenge that I personally have.
Indeed. All right, let's do the next slide.
All right.
Proposal and experience software. This has been sort of the new black for the last couple of years. Everybody was buying, an experience software, a proposal generator, and if CRM and ERM are the who knows who, experience is the who knows what. But we're now dealing with multiple bios. We've got bios for pitches. We've got bios for the website and experience. We've got all these bios. Where should they live? Could we just please manage them in one location? Well, what's that going to be? Might it be experience? Maybe it's the website software. All these things you have to think about before implementing. Also, we want to be able to do things like tracking successes and assigning tasks. And this is where the pipeline and the experience and the proposals are also very intertwined. So you really do need a strategy. But I will say with experience, don't underestimate the amount of people and process required to make it work. You can auto-generate, experience and matters and get everything ready at a certain threshold, but then you need a description written, and you have to end up going back to the firm to get that, and to the attorneys. I've seen it work well where they have associates assigned as the key liaison to be the person to go to, and that, they're great writers, so let them, do the write-ups. I've seen workflows that will allow at a certain matter threshold, there's a routing that sends it to, whatever department it is, and those associates at least take the first pass at writing the description, assuming they know about it. They don't always know. So, they may have to go to the attorney, and now we've got at least a little more communication and coordination going on. So all good. Next slide.
All right.
All of this falls down without data, and we are literally drowning in data. Next slide. And we're drowning, and yet we're caught in silos. We've got this data dilemma. You want to hit the next button on that?
Oh, sorry.
Got it. Yep. In the past, 30% of your data degraded every year without ongoing attention. I will work with firms who say, hey, we need data stewarding. We've had XYZ CRM for 10 years and we've never touched the data. That's a big deal, right? You don't want to get behind. You've got to do it and keep up with it, especially once you get it clean. Don't drop the ball, because it's a lot of work to get there. Now with global nomading and the great resignation, it's probably 50% people working from home. We have just bad information. We can't connect with people like we could, and then people are doing life changes. They move and change locations and roles and all this. And we've got to keep up with this data. And the data is in multiple silos. We've got stuff in the CRM. We've got stuff from the ERM. We have to get that into an e-marketing system. Of course, we've got the spreadsheets, HR data, time and billing. There's lots and lots and lots of silos. And we want to fix that by doing, and again, this is sort of a power tool, doing more integrations. Next slide. We want to focus on this data, right? We want to integrate our systems because that's going to bring the data all together. It's going to reduce duplicative data entry in multiple systems. It's going to help you with reporting and analysis. Those are two of the biggest problems I hear. It's like, we can't generate a report because we don't have the CRM turned into connected to the time and billing system. So we can't even tell who a client is. We don't have anybody tagging industry, so we can't pull an industry list. We can't do a white space analysis because we haven't added all that. And that data, it doesn't just appear there. It takes time and effort. You have to either buy subscriptions or have data stewards focus on it, or integrate your systems to get all the data, to have a singular instance. Oddly, I got on a great call yesterday with this private equity organization, and they're so far removed from what we're doing. They're like, we have 6 divisions and we have 6 different legal entities, and all of our organizations roll up to those entities, but we need a data analyst to come in and integrate and harmonize all the data using, we're going to purchase the data sources. And I'm like, wow, that is a whole other world of what they're doing with data compared to sort of where we are. But you know what? We are where we are, and we can get better at it. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. Pick a few nuggets that work for you. If you're on a spreadsheet, think about maybe getting a pipeline. If you're not doing anything with your data, maybe start outsourcing. Even 10 hours a week can help with it. It's really easy to get good, inexpensive, flexible help to help you with this. And it lets you free your internal people up to do more strategic things like their day job and helping the attorneys. Next slide. And just a few of my final tips. As I've said before, strategy and planning are absolutely critical. Technology is great, but without a strategy and a plan, it is just really, expensive and resource intensive. I was talking with the accounting firm managing partner yesterday, and she said, I feel like we have these grand plans and we need to just sort of tone them down and look at the ROI of what we're doing and do things in phases, because every time we buy technology, every piece of it we use 10%. And so you don't want to do that, but that you can start with 10% and then have a phase 2 where you have another 10%. And then I will tell people, roll out in pilot groups. Everybody gets to be a special snowflake. I had a firm that taught me this valuable lesson. Do a pilot group, figure out what they need, wrap the tool around what they need, get them the information that they need with minimal effort and maximum value, get successes, communicate successes, and repeat and go do it again. You will have people lined up at your door to get access to your CRM, your experience database, or whatever it might be. But remember, it doesn't ever end. So you've got to staff for it. You've got to train for it. You don't train once, you train ongoing. You've got to dedicate resources, time, money, and people, communicate success relentlessly, and train continually. Next slide.
So important.
Yeah. And what's also important is don't try to boil the ocean. Don't do it all at once. Gone are the days when success was defined as, we're going to roll this whole thing out. We're going to buy it in January, and by June, we'll have it rolled out to everyone. We're going to train in all the offices, and we're going to have 100% usage of the system. And that's how we define success. Well, no wonder everybody says they fail. That's never going to be a recipe for success, never has been. So we're going to change how we define success. We're going to measure that success, and we're going to achieve that success. And don't do it alone. Got great people on this call. Stefanie and I will always take a phone call, reach out to, your LMA friends. Providers and consultants are a great source of knowledge, and your network and your friends. If you need more info around resources for marketing technology. And we'll send you this after too. But that link is the resource toolbox on our website. It's the resources section. We've got tons white papers and best practices and checklists and spread and all kinds of sheets. And then you can also sign up for our CRM Success Tips newsletter. I think Stephanie put it in the chat, but we'll send that to you as well. And I have talked pretty much enough. Stephanie, you got.
All right. Well, thank you, Chris. I mean, also important. I would even like tell you that, like when you're doing a new website and like you think it's going to launch in 6 months or 8 months, it never, ever, ever does. I mean, it's just like, all of these things. And I love technology. I love tools. I want my life to be easier, but I also know that there are people issues and there's just issues in general that always come up that make it difficult. Right now, I'm trying to track all of our past matters for award submissions, but it's different than the descriptions that I have in proposal information. So it's like, I wish I had like a cool tool that I could like pull things out for that. So business idea for somebody. Okay. So I want everyone to really keep in mind of the fact that if your lawyers can be doing all of the things they're supposed to be doing, but if they're not actually marketing themselves, and I say here on social media, but I would go further and say email marketing. I truly believe email marketing is more important than social media. And yes, I really just said that because there is no other direct way to reach your clients and your prospects and no other place where they are throughout their day and their night.
Who are you and what did you do with Stephanie?
And I don't, so many of us are like, one of the things Chris has taught me is that data degrades rapidly, but even more so during COVID. And I feel like people are just on, like, they're not sharing contacts as much as I wish they were. They're going into the signature blocks and just copying the person's email, or they're on their phones. And, it's tough to keep in touch with people. Now, I will say social media helps us in so many ways and also helps us know where people are. So we can actually update our CRMs because people aren't sending V cards for the most part, when they move jobs. It's up to us to do the due diligence to find out where they've landed. So that's my thing about email marketing. But here's the thing, you can be the best at what you do, but if you are not marketing yourself, you are not actually taking advantage of being visible and developing your brand and your business, which is essential, particularly when I mentioned, the little baby who had the iPhone. People are searching for everybody and they hear your name and they want to know if you do what they need you to do. Okay. And you accomplish that on your website, on your LinkedIn profile, through email marketing. And all of these things are touch points that help you stay top of mind. And so to that end, one of the things I want you all to think about is how often are the people who send business to you and the people with whom you do business actually hearing from you? This is why Chris will talk about why you need a CRM. This is why you need an ERM. This is why you need an email marketing program, because you want substantive touch points that showcase your thought leadership and the value you can provide without selling yourself, your lawyers, your services, right? When done right, marketing is never about selling anything. It is simply about showing, so show versus tell. And we do this all through social media, videos, podcasts, content marketing, email marketing, all of these webinars, right? And we need technology to help be the engine behind all of these things. And so there are a lot of lawyers who do what your lawyers do. You need to make sure that your lawyers are top of mind. And that is where content marketing comes into it. And then technology is the vehicle that helps to propel that thought leadership and disseminate it to the audiences. Okay. And that's why, my friends, it's so important to invest in marketing technology, because you can spend hours writing a client alert or an article, but if no one actually gets it, who are the right intended people, you're doing it in vain. I feel like there should be clapping going on when I say that, because I really, truly believe that. I feel like we do things in a vacuum and we don't think about that. Again, the silos, right? Somebody tells us to send out a client alert and we just do it, but we're not thinking about all of these other things. So to that end, social media is not just about good content, okay? And I'm not going to talk about content today. I'm talking about tools. to do social media really well, and whether it's, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all of the above, you need a combination of the tools here. Okay, not all of them. And it depends what kind of company you are. I know we have non-law firms on here, so that's why the last one is on here about customer service tools, because you may have a chatbot on your website. So scheduling tools, analytics, probably for me, analytics is the most important. If you are a bigger firm or you are a person, maybe a 1 or 2 person marketing department, you're going to need a scheduling tool that helps you keep track of your content, but also to disseminate it in a way that doesn't involve you being the person to actually hit send all the time. You can have things going on and working for you in the background. Monitoring tools are similar to listening tools, and those I think can be helpful. You can do the old-fashioned listening tool, which is go on LinkedIn, follow 10 of your competitors, which you can do through your LinkedIn company page, and look at what they're doing. And assign somebody at your firm the responsibility of looking at the client alerts that your competitors are pushing out, and the social media activity and what they're posting on their news and events section. And then you've got competitive intelligence for days, okay? Because again, you don't want to do this all in a silo. There's automation tools. So if you have HubSpot, you know this, but listen, I will talk, we're going to talk a little bit about AI later, and Chris and I are doing a separate webinar on this. I think automation can be super helpful. And Chris is right, we're using automation in email marketing every day, but I don't think automation supplants or replaces human beings. And that's something to keep in mind. Your secret sauce are the humans that power all of these things to make the machines and the technology work better and smarter, okay? And then there are engagement tools. If you're not getting your lawyers to share your content, and not just your lawyers, non-lawyers, right? You're not actively really taking advantage of everything you can on social. And let's talk a little bit about MarTech can greatly help SEO. And there are tools. I'm happy to give you the names of those tools. Chris and I will do a follow-up paper about this, or not paper, article, blog post. So you need technology tools to help you with your search engine optimization. If you're not concerned about your SEO, you are living under a rock somewhere. So you need to think about SEO. This is your discoverability online. Discoverability online is really important. Like, will clients actually call you because they found you online? Maybe, maybe not. But for the firms that aren't household names, this is really important. And it's also important for niche practices. I have a client that was building its NIL practice, that's name, image, and likeness practice, and there aren't a lot of firms that have that. So guess what? I did a ton of research. I bought some keywords and I put substantive content. So that's not just a practice description that's over 300 words. That's also webinars and the recaps of webinars, podcasts, all those sorts of things, and client alerts. And then I've got a hub for my content. Everybody should be thinking about their web pages, their blogs as hubs for their content, and their LinkedIn company pages as well, because all of these things work in tandem to do those things. Another little idea for you guys: every webinar or speaking engagement your lawyers do can be turned into another piece of content. So Chris and I just thought of this, but Chris and I are going to turn this into short spliced up little clips, because nobody really probably wants to watch the 55-minute program, although I would like to think, unless you're having trouble with sleeping and it helps cure insomnia, or you might want your short clips. And also the transcript is easy to get for this. We'll turn that into an article and you've got content for days. So you should all be repurposing your webinars. You can turn this into a podcast too. Chris, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I actually created this infographic a while back, and then Stephanie and I re-collaborated on it, and it's called The Circle of Law, and it's all the different things that you can do with a piece of content, depending on where you start. Like sometimes I'll write articles and then I'll break it up into individual blog posts. Sometimes I'll write a series of blog posts and then I'll combine it into an article. And then you can, record it, podcast it, video, all these different things you can do. And we'll be happy to share that with everybody. We'll let you know at the end of the webinar.
Yeah, that's going to be a free gift. So, but definitely let us know if you want that for sure. So all of these things here. And Chris, I know you have a very strategic SEO strategy for your company, because for what you do, it's so important to be found. And I think a lot of law firms can learn from what non-law firms are doing by way of SEO. It's your keywords, you guys. It's the way you write your news items on your website. It's filling out the meta tags. It's naming your photos the right way, because that actually helps too. And then there's obviously also the scoring of articles and blogs for keywords. And there's, I mean, I'm not going to talk about link strategy today, but backlinking and outbound and inbound links. Like, there's a whole lot of things here that law firms need to think about. If your website doesn't have the ability to provide related content when somebody is on a page, like for example, they're on the a practice page, they should be getting related content based on what user preferences. So, it's like Amazon, when you buy something and then it gives you 6 other things you should buy. Law firm websites need to operate the same way with other pieces of content. The more dwell time somebody spends on your website, the more they're going to start trusting you, and the more potentially they will use you. And there's a whole bunch of good things that can come for that. Okay. So this is something I have not talked about publicly, Chris, but it's something that is something I'm speaking about today, which I actually, Chris, want you to do as well. So let's talk about it. So how many of you have heard of the LinkedIn Insight tag? And it has a different name. I forget offhand, but I can tell everybody later. But so they call it sometimes, the LinkedIn Pixel. It's a piece of code. It's a JavaScript code that you can install on each page of your website. And I can send you instructions on how to do this. It's very easy. I was able to do it, which means it's easy, as I'm not good with that. Chris taught me today how to remove animation from a slide. And I was like, ooh, that's cool. So this leaves a cookie on the browser of any visitor who comes to your site. So this way, if they visited through LinkedIn. So let's say you have the LinkedIn post on your company page and it goes to your website. It's a blog post. You want to know how that traffic's getting to you. You can set up UTM links. It's a little trickier, but this is also embedded code on your website that can directly tell if somebody came through LinkedIn, and then you can target them later, okay? And so I would add this to all of the pages, bios, practice area descriptions, especially blogs, articles, your news and resources section. If you have separate blogs, one of the things that a lot of people don't do is you have a separate blog, but you don't cross-reference the blog content on the main firm publication section. You should, because guess what? Most law firm blogs have incredibly low readership. So you should be letting them work for you by publicizing them on the firm website, okay? And then this will track conversions. It will help you figure out maybe what's a lead, and it gives you incredibly valuable insight. So how many of you knew about this, and how many of you will add the LinkedIn Insight tag? Chris, did you know about it?
I talked to you about it, so now I do.
Now you do. Okay. But it's cool, right? I mean, so it's just a tag. So this is something I don't think law firms are doing, and I think they should. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn Creator Mode. So for those of you personally, and also for your lawyers, some of you may wonder, should we use creator mode? What do I do when someone asks me, should I turn creator mode on? And the truth is that creator mode is becoming more and more of the norm for individuals today. So I would tell you, don't turn on creator mode unless you have more than 1,000 connections. And even if you're not somebody who's going to be publishing content regularly, then maybe it's not for you. But LinkedIn creator mode gives you access to tools that you don't have otherwise. And these are that it gives you access to LinkedIn Live, it gives you access to LinkedIn newsletters, and it gives you the ability to put a direct link to some place right on the top of your profile. So this goes right at the bottom. If you go to my LinkedIn profile or Chris's, you'll see that it says, check out my blog, check out my website. You can't do that unless you have creator mode turned on. Now, there's no such thing as creator mode for company pages, but you can go LinkedIn Live and do LinkedIn newsletters for company pages. So if you're going to utilize those tools, I would suggest you turn creator mode on. The biggest detractor for me with LinkedIn creator mode is that it changes your connect button to follow. So people will follow you as the default. So you aren't necessarily linked into them, and it requires an extra step at the end of the day or every few days to link in with those people who followed you, okay? And it also will put your activity section up higher. LinkedIn has changed the activity section. It's so cool. They just did it on profiles. Maybe it hasn't rolled out to you yet, but you should look. If you have photos, videos, or any other kind of information, it's going to put them in buckets and make it more visual. It looks more like a Pinterest looking design, and it's coming to LinkedIn company pages. I don't know if anyone noticed this, but I am a huge fan of this.
And by the way, if you want to actually connect with somebody instead of following them, when you go to the LinkedIn website, there are little dots you can click on, and it'll allow you to actually still connect and not be a follower. But
yeah,
hey,
so you don't have to necessarily follow people. Okay.
Not follow.
So I love LinkedIn newsletters, and nobody is really using them effectively as an organization. Law firms could. The problem with LinkedIn newsletters that most law firms have, or any big organization, is that you can only do one per company if you do it through the company page. So that means you have to choose if you're going to do the IP one. So like, for example, let's say my law firm has 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. I can't do an IP newsletter and a healthcare newsletter, and I can't, number one, segment my audience because LinkedIn is not that smart, and I can't choose which newsletter I have. I have to have a general newsletter. So you could get around that by putting one newsletter up and then having sections for healthcare or whatever it is. I see law firms using LinkedIn newsletters to republish content that they're sending out via email, and there's really no way to spam anybody, so I wouldn't worry about that. I would still use this as a tool. The best thing about LinkedIn newsletters is that your subscribers get a notification. And the first time you ever send out a LinkedIn newsletter, it sends a notification to every single person in your network. And that, my friends, is something no LinkedIn post can possibly do. That's why I love it. And I also think it's a useful tool, especially keeping up with people's contact info. This is just another way to hit people in a number of different places. Now, if you have a lawyer that is a prolific blogger or client alert publisher, have them do the healthcare newsletter from them. I know that can get tricky because of issues with, authorship and whatever it is. I'm going to leave you guys to figure that out yourselves, like picking your favorite child, but there are ways to work around it. And then the other thing is, a lot of law firms aren't doing LinkedIn Lives. A lot of people aren't. Lawyers could do this. If you have somebody who's nervous about potentially, starting a podcast, do a LinkedIn Live, because here's what you can do. So yes, it's scary to go live. Number two, no one is noticing how good you are, or like thinks you're bad. It's all in the eye of the beholder, right? But LinkedIn Lives get so much visibility. There's not a lot of them, which is why they do really well. And then you get an automatic link to that content that you can download, keep on LinkedIn, and also post on YouTube. The thing with video content, always make sure you have your captions, and LinkedIn now has automatic captions that come up on every video, so you don't have to do the work to do that. All right. So I'm curious if any of you are using LinkedIn Live. You can go LinkedIn Live as an individual or LinkedIn Live from a company page. And here are just some things to think about with regard to LinkedIn newsletters. You can expand your audience, you could expand brand awareness, all of these great things. And it's just another way to grow your audience on LinkedIn. And I just love the fact, like I mentioned, it goes to every single person to whom you're connected, okay? Here are some things you can post: evergreen content, LinkedIn posts, any diversity content, CSR content does really well. You could do some press coverage, upcoming events and webinars. I see like Good to Be Social sends out a LinkedIn newsletter every day instead of posting. And I think that probably is because they're trying to take advantage of these benefits, right? A bio series, maybe a series of Q&A with new employees. Maybe you're doing something for Women's History Month and you want to do profiles of the women for Women's History Month, maybe Pride or whatever it is. Okay. And you can put podcasts and videos. It's just another way to repurpose your content, which most people don't do effectively. They do what I call one and done, which is they take the time to create great content and it never sees the light of day ever again. All right. So one of the other things that a lot of you are doing, but I just want to reiterate this and stress the importance of this, that in a crowded market, I think having an owned media strategy is just as important as your earned media strategy. And that, my friends, okay, so earned media is when you get an award or get published in the New York Times, or someone asks you to be on their podcast and you write it up. Maybe your article was reprinted in Law 360. That's all great. Intersperse those with owned media, which is the ability that you have to create content based on your lawyers, your practices, your firm, and say what you want to say when you want to say it. So for example, something like a bio series, a practice description series, repurposing your blog posts and client alerts, Q&As. So similar content to what I mentioned on LinkedIn newsletters here, you can publish as owned media. I love the idea. This is Lowenstein Sandler does this. Check out their LinkedIn. I really like what they do. They do a first 100 days or get to know a lateral. And I think that's like a terrific way to announce a lateral later on after you've done that initial PR push. Another thing I like are hashtag holidays, social media holidays. So today is Pie Day, as many of you told me. There was National Donut Day, and there's, Love Your Lawyer Day, but also it's Women's History Month. So doing a series about your women at the firm and their accomplishments. And maybe it's Independence Day. There are so many of them. I have a list of those, but consider those as part of your social strategy. Okay, so evergreen content is really important, and evergreen content is what I mentioned before. You can utilize a lot of these things, and they're gifts that keep giving. So I use those. Remember, I was talking about scheduling tools. I will schedule content. Like, let's say it's, 10 reasons why you need to be on LinkedIn. That's a good one for me. Chris, a good one for you would be why you need a CRM. For any trust and estates lawyers, why you need a will. Okay, those are evergreen pieces that are timeless, that you can repurpose every other month. The thing that most people worry about is that when they send an email out, when they do a social post, they worry that if they repurpose their content, that people are going to think they're spamming them. And I'm telling you, nobody remembers what they had for breakfast yesterday, let alone what a law firm posted on social. Chris, what did you have for breakfast yesterday?
I don't eat breakfast, so that's easy. Coffee.
All right. Well, the perfect answer would have been, I don't know, Steph, you're totally right. But there you go. You threw me for a doozy. I don't even know what I had for breakfast yesterday. All right. And then here are just some examples here of different kinds of things. So National Receptionist Day. What a great idea to shout out your receptionist. There's a Women's History post here. There's a Veterans Day post, pictures of veterans at your firms. Pro bono, that's Alan Mackin's up top right. That's a pro bono series. I love history posts. So you'll see there's one from Sidley on the top left. There's one from IBM. On this day in history, we did X or Y. I love TBT and FBF posts. So Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday. It gives you a great opportunity to repost things that may not have gotten visibility. And you'll know that, you guys, either high visibility or low visibility. And you know how you know that, Chris? Analytics. Thank you. Yes, analytics. All right. So
you didn't tell me there were going to be quizzes on this webinar. I would not have.
If you can't answer that, Chris, we have a problem. So
there's another trend.
Yeah.
That, we started to cover in this webinar, and then it just sort of went crazy. It blew up. We talked at the last one about, the robots are coming for our jobs, right? And since then, it has exploded. And so we are going to do an upcoming webinar on the impact of AI, and as well as, next slide.
Yeah. And so you'll see.
We lost it. Go back.
No, I'm here. All right. So the influence of ChatGPT, but also there are other tools. You guys, I like Canva Magic Write 10 times better than ChatGPT. Check it out. And you have to have the paid version of Canva, which is completely worth it. But this, to me, produces amazing content. So these tools are not going anywhere. And then the goal for us is to figure out, how do we use these to produce quality content quickly? Remember I said I worry about marketing automation because the secret sauce are people. I agree with that. But if you need a place to start, writing a sales email, writing a survey, writing a blog post, these can be helpful tools. You just have to personalize them, or you run the risk of sounding generic. And so this is going to be interesting. The influence of ChatGPT will continue to be far-reaching, and I think that firms are well situated to take advantage of this, but to know what to do with it. And we know law firms are adverse to things like this. They may be nervous about copyrights. And so there's a lot of pitfalls that I want to talk about with those.
Yeah, we're going to definitely give you some fun tools and tips around that, and some ideas as well. But one sort of final, tip from me is, again, there's a lot of information here. Just take a few nuggets back. The most important nugget to remember, though, is the firms that succeed are going to be the ones that embrace technology, that invest in technology, that dedicate resources, time, money, and people to the technology. Because, like, it's the same thing with ChatGPT. The technology is only as good as the people in the process. And when it falls down, that's usually why. If they say CRM fails to meet expectations a lot, it's because the expectations are often wrong. So you've got to sit down and create expectations and metrics around these tools to get value. Next slide.
And this is a little more about our next webinar, date TBD. We'll send that to you guys. I was going to say TBT, but I didn't. And then keep in touch with us. So these are our LinkedIn QR codes, which is another, you guys, quick little easy tip that should be on every lawyer's presentations, webinars, when they speak in person. It's something I've been doing for years, something Rich Bracken told me about, that everyone can pull these from your LinkedIn app. I put it as the home screen on my phone, so you will all see me at the LMA conference with my either my dogs or my LinkedIn QR code, and you just have people go right up to you. It's so easy.
And another couple reminders in terms of LMA, don't forget Cabana Con on the Sunday before the event starts. Feel free to drop your, if you want an invitation, feel free to drop one. We'll send you the details on that.
Yeah.
If you also want the Circle of Law infographic to tell you 101 things you can do with a piece of content, we will share that as well. And our team, I'll actually be happy to jump on a call with anybody and talk about their data. We talked a lot about data. We do a lot of planning and strategy around that. Maybe you're just scratching your head like you're about to migrate your CRM. What do we do? We can talk to you about our migration preparation and how to tackle the data deluge. If you want to just have a call and catch up, we'd like that too.
We could do that too. And if you guys need social media training, you know who to call. There was a question from Deborah.
Yeah, we saved time for questions, and we have one from Deborah.
Yeah, I see that, Deborah. Okay, so should you launch your LinkedIn newsletter from both personal and business pages? Do you need to invite your personal contacts to follow your business pages? Okay, so many good things here. I'm so glad you asked this question. Okay, so here's my thought on this. Okay, so number one, for the most part, the most powerful network you have is your personal network, okay? Like, I'll give you an example. My LinkedIn company page has 1,500 followers. You guys should follow me there. But number two, my personal LinkedIn has 21,000 LinkedIn connections. So the one for me that's going to make the most sense is for me to publish my LinkedIn newsletter to the 21,000 audience so that I have a higher likelihood of more people seeing it, okay? So that's what I would recommend you do. You can also republish it to your LinkedIn company page. But the thing that everybody does, and by the way, if you have a LinkedIn company page and you want to do LinkedIn newsletter as a company page and as yourself, you have the option to do 2 newsletters. One of the things I do on my company page is do long form articles. So anything I publish on my blog or anything I publish on JD Supra, I'll put as a LinkedIn publisher article that does really well with SEO. If you look on Google, you'll see that LinkedIn long form articles actually show up on that first page of Google, which is what I like. Newsletters are not yet, okay? And then my other thought is everybody gets 250 free credits if you have a LinkedIn company page per month to invite people to follow your page. Most people do not take advantage of this. It is a missed opportunity. If you invite somebody, you can't invite them again. So you're not spamming them. And let's say Chris and I manage the same page and I invited Deborah to follow my page and she can't invite Deborah also. So we're not able to bug people. You lose those credits, you guys, every month. So you should be taking advantage of those. Organic growth on LinkedIn company pages is very difficult. And I would highly recommend you take advantage of this 250. You probably get these requests. It's like so-and-so has invited you to follow X. If you don't want to follow them, you just ignore it. People are used to it. So don't feel like, again, you're bugging people. I would also make sure you have a link to your LinkedIn company page and your LinkedIn profile in your email signature. Probably the most basic technology tip of all, because that's how you facilitate networking and building your community, and have it on your website, have it on every blog post. I end every blog post with a sentence. It's a boilerplate that I keep on my desktop, and it says, connect with me on LinkedIn. Chris does too on her blog post. Connect with me on LinkedIn, sign up for my newsletter. Here's a link to my website. Everybody should be doing the same thing. You know how many people click on that button on a law firm website where it says subscribe to our newsletters? I think maybe one person every few months. You have to drive the traffic to get the traffic. Ooh, I just invented a new phrase. Okay, so I hope that answers the question, Deborah, and you know how to reach me if you have more questions. And congratulations, Deborah, on your first carousel post this week. You did such a great job. I am very proud of you. So, all right, well, yeah, go ahead.
Remind us how to generate company reports on LinkedIn.
I'm not sure I know what kind of report, Felicia, you mean. So let me know what kind of company report. Are you talking about like analytics, or are you talking about you want to look at like who's following you? Just let me know, and you can always just send me a note after if you want to. You guys, you know how you can get in touch with me and Chris. It's either via email, via LinkedIn. So Felicia, reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer that for
Email,
you.
LinkedIn, newsletter, blog post.
Carrier pigeon. I mean, you can find me and yeah. So we are so excited you guys joined us. And I love that comment. It was so kind that Chris and I have good energy because we've been doing programs together for a while. Indeed. And we'll continue to do that for as long as you guys promise to come and listen to us. So we will be back. We'll send you guys the slides. We'll send you guys a recap, and then also we'll give you information about how to register for the next one.
Yeah, and feel free if you have things you want us to talk about in the future, let us know that as well.
We would love to know if you have specific topics that you want us to cover. We do these very generally like MarTech tools, but because we can both cover, but let me know. And we do this genuinely just to help people. So we really appreciate you guys. All right, so everyone gets back 2 minutes of their day. Chris, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Happy Pie Day. Let's go get some pie.
Have some pie on Pie Day. Bye, everyone.